What's up guys, Christian from Crisis Point and welcome back to the channel. And today we'll be talking about the POCO F4 GT. Now I've been using the POCO F4 GT for about 3 to 4 weeks now, and in this video we'll be talking about the camera, gaming, and pretty much everything in between. But before which, let's do a quick unboxing so at least you know what to expect should you consider getting one for yourself. Okay, so let's first talk about the design, because POCO has been probably the most iconic brands in the market today that actually provides a different approach when it comes to design. The first device that I actually reviewed previously that had some kind of a different approach when it comes to designs is the POCO X3, followed by the X3 Pro, then suddenly it switched to a much more minimalist approach, which is the POCO F3. Now I didn't get to check out the F3 GT, but with the F4 GT, we have something that is a lot more futuristic, a lot more modern, without sacrificing on comfort and overall build. Now, what we have here is the stealth black variant. The texture on the back of the device is a matte finish, although some of the highlights that you can see reflecting on the back is glass, so you know this is a glass back. Now, the next noticeable element would be the 3-camera configuration, which basically comes with a 64 megapixel primary lens, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel macro lens, with a bit of POCO branding toward the bottom, and in front is a 6.67 inch flat AMOLED dot display. So you're getting a lot of screen real estate here when playing games or watching videos, etc. Underneath we have the USB Type-C port for charging, the primary microphone, 2 bottom firing speakers. Up top we have another set of speakers, a secondary microphone, and the IR blaster. Towards the left we have the SIM card tray that houses 2 nano SIM cards, flanked by the volume rocker, as well as the third microphone. And towards the right we have the power button that doubles as a sleep wake key, as well as the iconic magnetic pop-up triggers. So basically the pop-up triggers is designed specifically for gaming, and in this case it is actually a bit trippy to see these on a smartphone. I wish that future releases of POCO would take advantage of this and come out with a camera-centric smartphone. Consider the fun of any consumer who loves taking photos, kind of like the shutter button of a camera. So initial impressions in terms of design, it's a win for me. This right here is already a working formula. That being said, let's now go over the first topic for this video. As mentioned previously, it has a 6.67 inch flat AMOLED display. It has a resolution of 1080p Full HD+ with a 20:9 aspect ratio. Probably to me the most striking thing is the fact that it doesn't come with DC dimming, but despite not having DC dimming, there's not a lot of banding going on even in darker conditions. Normally I would have like migraines looking at screens like this, but with the F4 GT, it was indeed a very pleasurable experience. It does come with Gorilla Glass Victus for protection, and the flat display actually works very well. You get to experience really good viewing angles, and although it's not the brightest of the bunch, but during the time of this video, this was being shot in the garage where the sunlight is blasting through their sunroof, which basically explains why there's a lot of reflection going on. But even then, you can still see the screen clearly. It's not the brightest of the bunch, but it's clear enough to make things legible under the sun. Color accuracy is also good. As you can see from the music video, even under direct sunlight, there's not a lot of color shifting going on. Great viewing angles all around, which can then serve a purpose to the majority if you like watching a ton of music videos, binge watching on Netflix, or pretty much just, playing games. It's going to be very rare for you to encounter any other smartphone that is in this price point to give you this much of a performance with the screen display. It also comes with a few visual enhancements, which is super resolution, AI image enhancements, which basically enhances the overall look of the photos you're taking, AI HDR enhancements, which makes things more detailed and brighter, and MEMC, which basically adds a lot more frame rates when you're watching certain movies, giving it that buttery smooth effect. Now the F4 GT, considering it is a gaming phone, has a 120Hz refresh rate. It is set to default by normal, which is basically the adaptive mode, but you do have the option to manually set it from 60Hz to 120Hz. Personally, if you're coming from an iPhone or any other smartphone that was released previously that doesn't come with any high refresh rates, by default you will not notice the change in terms of speed or fluidity. You will notice it the minute you shift it from 60 to 120 Hz in the cost of having to use a lot more battery. Now, yes, some people might say that there are other smartphones that has 144 Hz, 165, whatever. Those things won't really matter if you're just going to be using this device casually. With my experience using smartphones that has a high refresh rate, generally it is mind-blowing the first few weeks, but as soon as your eyes adjust to it, it looks very much like any other screen. The only time that you will notice the drop in frame rate is the minute you shift to another device that doesn't have a high refresh rate, or if you have a smartphone that doesn't have a high refresh rate and you put them together. Now, for anyone who's going to be asking, yes, the POCO F4 GT also comes with an always-on display, and because the POCO F4 GT is using MIUI, whatever customization options are available on MIUI is also available on the POCO F4 GT. So you can really tweak out and deck out your POCO F4 GT depending on your taste and preference in terms of design, fine-tuning it to your liking, and literally personalizing it as to how you see fit. Now, gaming on the POCO F4 GT is probably the main highlight of this device, simply because of several factors. First and foremost, for the price point, you're getting the latest chip from Qualcomm, which is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. This model right here is the 12GB variant that comes equipped with liquid cool technology 3.0. This basically means if you'll be playing graphic intense games, you will get the most fluid experience, period, without the worry of any form of heating. Realistically speaking, the device does get hot to a certain extent, but unlike the previous generations of Snapdragon's flagship chips, it doesn't actually sustain that level of heat for a long period of time. Usually, the minute you start feeling that level of heat, just by simply stopping for a few minutes, the device goes back to its natural state, which is the impressive part. However, there is one thing that you need to know when it comes to gaming on the POCO F4 GT. The pop-up triggers, mostly geared towards FPS games, shooting games to be exact. One could be for the ADS or the other one is for the hipfire feature. Now, during my testing, despite having to max out every single setting there is in the game, I didn't experience any form of throttling, but of course you have to understand there are certain factors to consider for you to attain that. Number one is room temperature. If you're in a room that is relatively hot, then the tendency is the device will also get hot a lot faster. Another thing to consider is internet connectivity. If you're in Wi-Fi, let's say you're like on the highest level of Wi-Fi at the moment, then obviously the tendency for you to experience any form of lag will not be there. But if you're on mobile data and your network is unstable, then obviously you will experience that form of lag or latency when playing fast-paced action games. But overall, the experience when playing game titles like Call of Duty Mobile, the experience alone is very immersive and fun. You can enjoy playing games the more conventional way with just using the touchscreen, or you can also use the pop-up triggers to add that game controller vibe, just like when you're playing on a gaming console. Now, to be fair, as intuitive as it sounds, if you're a pro mobile gamer and you've never used pop-up triggers before, I guarantee you there is going to be a bit of a learning curve to get the hang of it, give or take 2 to 3 weeks. Now, another benefit of the F4 GT is the touch sampling rate. It is up to 480 Hz. This basically means the register of your fingers touching the screen is going to be a lot more accurate, a lot more faster, as opposed to other brands in the market. And that's pretty much everything you need to know about the gaming aspect of the POCO F4 GT. Now, there is one other feature of smartphones that tend to have a bad impression, especially with gaming phones, and that is the POCO F4 GT shares the exact same camera layout as opposed to other smartphones in Xiaomi or Redmi. The overall layout is virtually the same. As a matter of fact, it can also be the exact same thing. But one thing that actually struck me the most was the fact that despite having an older sensor, the images produced with the POCO F4 GT was at par with the majority of flagship smartphones in the market. In addition, it also has additional features wherein you can have a wide range of shooting modes you can actually do to make the most of the camera configuration on the POCO F4 GT. Now, instead of like taking photos of the usual flowers and whatnot, I decided to go for something else. So here are photo samples and videos taken with the POCO F4 GT.
love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this,
So in a nutshell, the POCO F4 GT is probably the perfect package you can get in 2022. The overall performance is amazing, gaming performance is great, camera performance is decent, very much acceptable versus the majority of other gaming phones with crappy cameras. The design is modern and realistic, aesthetically pleasing to the eye, and the price point is very attractive. A perfect example of what you would get if the R&D team is working non-stop to provide you, the consumer, the best possible package for a smartphone in 2022. And that's pretty much it for my review of the POCO F4 GT, the apex of power. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or inquiries, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and if you want to check out my review of the POCO Buds Genshin Impact Edition, as well as the POCO Watch, links are in the description down below, as well as links on where you can get the POCO F4 GT. Thanks again for watching. This is Chris once again from Crisis Point, and I'll catch you in the next.